Welcome to the Not Superheroes, Just Dads podcast. No, we can't fly. No, we can't shoot lasers or pick up giant buildings. But what we can do is help set the foundations for our families, be presents for our kids, and combat generational cycles. On this podcast, we dive into everything dad related, from the struggles we deal with as fathers to what our favorite thing to barbecue is. Hello, I am Sean Laurie, and today, guys, I am excited because, man, y'all don't understand. This man is super busy, man. It's like trying to get in contact with the president or something like that, man. And he's a single father, so those that know, y'all know. It gets crazy. But
Right.
I'm
Whoa.
so, huh?
I said right. Whoa.
Yeah, man. So, my boy James Cole, man, how you doing, my guy?
I'm doing good, brother. I want to appreciate you for all the past planning and then rescheduling over the past couple of weeks. I know it kind of gets into timing, but I definitely appreciate you working it out so we can get this going. I've been excited since you even brought it up to me. So I'm here. Let's get it.
Let's get it, man. So, what I like to do is icebreakers at times. So, I have a good one for you. I was thinking about, I'm like, okay, I know you a die-hard Laker fan, right?
Yes.
I also know you love your Raiders, right?
Yes.
So, with your son, if you have to choose, it might be difficult for you. If he said, "Dad, I don't like the Lakers or I don't like the Raiders," I would rather be a Celtics fan or a Broncos fan. Which one would you be able to tolerate more?
I'd much tolerate him being in a Tyler Perry movie. Broncos, Broncos, it's whatever. I see the thing about that most people don't know. I grew up a Niners fan, and then I ended up working for the Raiders when they were here in Oakland for 4 years in their video operations department. And of course, when you're working, you get so acclimated, and not only acclimated, you're working 7 days a week. So the most you end up watching is red zone, whether you're on the road or setting up at the home games, and then. As a camera guy, I'm legitimately watching the game and making sure everything is set up. So, with that whole thing, I still got love for the Niners, but, the saying, once a Raider, always a Raider. So I just crossed over. Now, that Celtics thing, as a fan, nah. But if he were to be employed, hey, we got to get them greenbacks.
Yeah.
You got to do what you got to do. That's the thing, only 1% of the population ever gets to experience that, whether you're an athlete, on staff, or, just in the vicinity. So, I may not like it initially, but I can warm up to some green if it's help paying his bills.
Okay. Hey, that's a mature perspective.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, the sports thing is so fun for me because I love trolling. I love doing all that. But I always say at the end of the day, I'm for sale too. It ain't just the athletes. My fanship is also, I could deny that if you want to, actually cut a check.
Hey, for real, man, for real. Because at the end of the day, they not. I look at it like, man, if you can make money from it at the end of the day, forget that loyalty. You know what I mean? Do what you gotta do.
Oh man, hey, I survived the gym bus era, so.
For real,
yeah.
Man.
I was. If the loyalty wasn't, 15, 20 years going at that point, I was this close to me, like, you know what, I'm just room for players now, but they cleaned it up, and we there. Rest in peace, Kobe. Facts,
man. So, okay, I want to ask you, man, my first question for you, man. Actually, real quick, y'all, so, your son just turned, 1, I think?
He's a Cinco de Mayo baby, so he just turned 1 a few weeks ago.
That's dope, Yeah. So,
I still can't believe it, bro.
Hey, bro, time doesn't stop.
No.
Time doesn't stop at all, man. But that's what I want to talk to you about and listeners, people that's watching, like, for people that's either a newly father or going into fatherhood or thinking about fatherhood, I definitely want you guys to definitely tap into this, or if you know someone, make sure you send it their way, man. But with that being said, man, what is something that you thought you knew about fatherhood, bro, that when you got into it, you was like, I really had no clue about? Because, you read books or you'll talk to someone or they'll tell you this, they'll tell you that, but then when you're in it, you like, well, that's not necessarily true. At least not for your situation, you know what I mean?
I think the biggest thing is that I went into fatherhood. First of all, I went into fatherhood fully excited. that was number one. From the time I found out that my son's mother was pregnant, very very excited. At the time, we were in a relationship, so well, it was a little murky, but we were still speaking on terms. We eventually patched things up, right before he was born. So either way, I was excited. What I was prepared for was obviously the sleepless nights. I was not prepared for diapers until after the delivery, in which I don't think any parent really is on the first go around, unless they have been around children, taking care of children, for a long period of time.
Yeah.
But what I wasn't expecting was the fact that my son has a very laid back and chill personality, like my family, the elders of my family, described me as a kid. So he would be 3 or 4 days old, and he would sleep all the way through the night. And it was like, I'd wake up at like 3 in the morning, like, oh no, you got to wake up because we're on a different. You're not grown yet. We're on a different type of schedule. And it's been that way basically for the bulk of his lifetime so far, which is, he'll still have his fussiness at time to time, but he will sleep at least 5 hours through. Wake him up, either change him or give him a bottle real quick, or give him a sippy cup now that he's a year old. And then he knocks right back out. He's a squirmer, so there's times where he'll chill in the crib all night. I'm thankful, but then there's other times where it's like, nah, I don't want to be alone. Come get me. But then when I get him, you know how it goes, bro. Everything that's yours is theirs, and everything that's theirs, stay away from. Well, the queen size bed is technically our bed, so he takes up every single space. I was not prepared for that. I thought with a little baby, they had one little box in zone, kind of like in NBA terms, like a box one. Nah, man, it's a full zone press. his head will be dangling off, or not dangling off, but towards the end of the bed one way. Then his head is faced up against the wall. Then he's hiked up on the pillow on the bookshelf type, because the way my bed's set up, it's its own bookshelf. He's hiked up on the pillow there. Then he's laid up on me. By the time I wake up, I'm like, bro, I think I only got like 3 hours of sleep, and he yawns looking at me like, hey, what's good? And I'm like, bro, if it wasn't for your smile, we'd be throwing hands.
Facts, man. I can relate, because I remember being kicked in the face. You know what I mean? I'm like, how am I getting hit in the chest? I'm like, I feel like I'm getting beat up while I'm trying to sleep. Why is this happening?
Were any of your children headbutters?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I hate that so much.
Yes.
He probably about a month ago, he was having a little tantrum. That's another thing, parents. Your children will have tantrums over the most wildest things ever. I was expecting it, but it's different from expecting and experiencing. That's a big difference. Expectations versus experience.
Facts.
So he was throwing a tantrum because he couldn't have my chicken bone. But I don't even have my chicken bone. Like, the chicken's gone. So as he's rocking, going crazy, I'm like, yo, chill, man, chill. Well, he headbutted me. You ever been headbutted to the point where you have to remember who it is that you're talking to, because you're right then and there? He did it, and I just looked up, and all I could say was, it's my child. It's my offspring. Get out of that zone. And I stand back and was like, boy, you got to quit. Stop it.
Yeah, man. Nah, it gets wild in the field for sure.
Man, they're so physical, and little baby strength is so strong. I never understood that until you try to take something out of an infant into a toddler's hand.
Yes.
You need to clock a full day in the gym to make sure it pops off.
You're like, why is it such a struggle? No, I know for a fact, man. So so like you said, you was excited when you found out and stuff like that. One, I guess, how did you find out? And then two, what was like running through your head at that time? Like, what was your mindset at the time? Was it something you was expecting? Was it something where you were like, hey, it's go time? Or was it something where like a switch kind of clicked and you like, okay, now, I mean, you always, from what I've always seen, man, you always are on your P's and Q's. You always doing your thing. But was it like, oh, I got to even level up even more? Like, what was that mindset? I know I can ask 2 questions, but yeah.
No. The mindset for me, so going into it, I always wanted to be a family man, and a father. I grew up in a single parent household with my mom, my younger brother, and my younger sister. So while I didn't have my father in the household growing up, I still was blessed to have a significant amount of positive male role models. My grandfather, my mom's father being, the main father figure.
Yeah.
And then, my father's two best friends who are my godfathers, they were still in the picture.
That's dope.
Older positive male in church. I was able to do so many things in church that when I describe it, people are always like, "Are you sure you went to church? Like that doesn't sound like church." And I'm like, "No, it was." I learned how to rap in church,
That's dope.
like all the kinds of stuff, and it was just God placing men in my life to just be those types of positive enforcements to carry on. So with that, my son's mother and we got together very quickly. And long story short, she was showing symptoms of pregnancy early. She thought it was something else. I was convinced, saying, go get a pregnancy test. Probably towards the end of the first trimester is when she found out for sure.
Okay.
So I was told going into the weekend. There was definitely a mix of emotions with being told and how being told. But again, one of those things was when it was confirmed, because I had already, had the mind frame that she was.
Yeah.
When it was confirmed, it was up. It was like, okay, I just need to figure out what it is that, how we're going to go off together, but I'm not leaving my responsibility. I was, God trained me for this. I'm ready for this. And so I think the biggest thing with that, to answer the second part of the question, was just going in expecting that it could be okay to mess up. You don't have to be a perfect parent. You just gotta be a parent that's present. And I think that's things that we put unnecessary pressure on ourselves to not only be a perfect parent, but there may be things that we want to do differently from our parents that not to demean or say anything bad about them, but we just saw some things growing up that it's like, hey, I want to do things different. Whereas you can focus on, hey, I turned out pretty good. Let me focus on some things that my parent did correctly, and then emphasize on that. And then whatever I need to work on, I can work on. That's one of the cool things about children. As long as they wake up smiling at you, and as long as they are ready to go to sleep, reaching up for you, you've done your job for the day. That's basically what I've had to program my mind into saying, is that I can make this amount of mistakes, and I could slip up here, or it's just not going to go good. But as long as my son is smiling at me throughout the day and is reaching up for me to put him down to sleep, hey man, I could be better tomorrow. There's definitely a building block, but there's that consistent where my son recognizes who his father is, loves his father, and he has okayed the opportunity to be better the next day.
I like that, man. You actually plugged in, those that know that's been following, you actually plugged in one of our mottos, man, where I say that all the time, as far as there's no such thing as a perfect parent, but a present parent, right?
Absolutely.
So I want to ask you, actually, so when you have kids, I tell people this all the time, or when they're thinking about it or whatever, and I say, we all have flaws, right? We all have, no matter if you think you have the best childhood or the worst childhood, whatever the case is, there's all, because again, no one's perfect. So there's all little things that we've seen or dealt with, big or small, that we don't really pay attention to, or maybe even know it's there until we have kids, right? And so I wanted to ask you, what is something that you didn't realize, good or bad, you was like, man, this is something I need to work on, or, oh man, this is something dope that I didn't even know that I do at times. When you had your son, like, what is something that you realize, like, okay, like for me, I can speak for me, bro, like,
yeah, please, I want to hear it.
I'm not the most, I'll be honest, I've gotten better. I'm not the most, I'm not good with my emotions, right?
Okay.
It took me a while to really get better with that, where I can really express myself. And me having kids forced me to really tap into that. You know what I mean? Forced me to even be a better man to my lady, because I still was having that mindset like, okay, I'm going to kind of do my thing or whatever the case is. And I had to change that. And then especially having daughters. Me having two daughters, I really had to make sure I am showing them what a man looks like, how they should be treated, how much love, because again, it was one of those things for me, it is what it is. Like, I care about you. Like, you see my actions, I'm over here with the whoop. So I had to change that, right? And I didn't
Right.
realize though, like those are things because for so long, I'm not gonna lie, I had that single mindset because when I was younger, I was doing my thing. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? And so understanding that, okay, no, how can I change that? How can I really address that? So not only for my girls but for my sons,
Right.
to understand, hey, those women out there that are really about something, no, you need to treat them accordingly. You know what I
Right.
mean? You need to
Right.
also value yourself. My whole thing is we tell, especially our girls, which we should, we tell our girls, I say this all the time, those that have been listening to me, rocking with me, they know, like we tell our girls like to value yourselves, to know your worth. Why we don't say the same things for our sons, right?
Right.
Be selective who you want to be with, who you want to have a
Right.
family with, right? Like you're special too. Like we say, oh, hey, don't give that dude your flower. Hey, y'all don't give him y'all water pistols, whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah.
so, so yeah, so I guess with that being said, what is there something for you that you realize you never really addressed or need to address, or just something you realize that just something that you highlighted that you're like, man, this is pretty dope.
So to start off with something that was dope, it's seeing the impact you have on your child and them reflecting it.
Mm.
So in Giannis's case, I learned basically from the time he was born, um, because I would talk to him when he was in the womb. Although we went into the delivery room not knowing the gender,
Mm.
so I would just just talk to my child. But
Yeah.
in talking with my child, I really didn't switch up much in terms of, hey, it's a running back. He about to hit the hole right here, or oh, he just hit a three. So I'm talking, sports with my child. I'm reading to my child, listening to music with my child. And now that he's older, he's so attentive.
Mm.
And not only is he attentive, the elders in my family, they're just amazed because it's like reliving my early development all over again.
Mm.
They say my son's a little bit like a cross between both my brother and I, and then he has a little, some sprinkle in some elements with my sister. But whereas I was very chill and go with the flow, I was still a performer. My son's all that, and then he's some of his uncle too. He wants to run into the walls. He wants to go everywhere. He's Mr. Independent.
Yeah.
And so just seeing him dance, it's the funniest thing ever. But at the same time too, it's not just the dance. He's such a happy-go-lucky baby, where he smiles and it's just fun and he shouts, and it's so infectious. You can't help but want to say, you know what, whatever I'm going on, I'm cleaning or I'm having a bad day, I'm struggling. This little boy dances. Turn YouTube TV up. Let's go. Let's groove. So just seeing how they mirror everything, it helps keep everything in perspective for me in terms of, okay, what I do need to work on, make sure that you're not only working on it behind closed doors, but work on it in front of him too. There's also opportunities to mess up and then come back and, even though he's too young to understand, still say, hey, I'm sorry. You didn't need to see that. This is why. We speak out our emotions. He has one of his favorite cartoons was on PBS Kids, Daniel Tiger.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And one of the things they say in Daniel Tiger is it's okay to express that you're angry, that you're mad.
Yeah.
It's what you do with that. And so definitely could be better with emotions. I think I'm pretty fair-headed, level-minded with that,
Yeah.
level-headed. But there's definitely some times where, just the pressures of having full custody of your child, not just as a parent, but, it is rare in instances in this world where the father has custody. So just dealing with that struggle, just trying to maintain and be that positive influence for him. I think something else that is definitely something that I was surprised that I took very well, without going into too much detail, is I was always one of those people where I said, when I'm a parent, I want to see every single step of his development. And due to some circumstances, it just didn't pan out that way. But when it was time to look back at his developments, I was happy. I wasn't happy with the circumstances of what occurred and why I wasn't present, but I was happy nonetheless. And because it showed that my son had resilience, it showed that he was still hitting his milestones when he needed to hit his milestones. And as a father, I prayed over him every single morning, and I prayed over him every single night. And so when it was time for us to, reunite, just seeing that, and not only seeing that, but then also seeing him reach up for me and recognizing who I was and not forgetting who I was, it was like, okay, there's just gonna be some things in life that I'm just not gonna be able to experience with him. But as long as he comes back with the experience, he's learned, he's maturing from it. That's all I can praise God for.
That's dope, man. And what you're saying too is like you said, is something that I dove into as far as like emotional intelligence, right? I think everyone should really invest into that and understand that. And that's what I'm big on with my kids and having them understand, which again, I didn't know. So I had to do the work myself to help my kids with that, right? And so,
Right.
but I wanted to ask you, because you did make a good point where, like with your son, like you said, there was certain, well, one, no, actually, matter of fact, let me give you your flowers a little bit too, is the fact that, again, it's simple to say, oh yeah, as a father, you should want to be there for your kid and things. But as we know, there's always adversity that happens in life, right?
Right. Right.
And unfortunately, sometimes the relationship doesn't work, and sometimes it can get a little toxic, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But not diving into it too much, but like you was able to now you have where your son's with you 24/7 now, right? Which is a beautiful thing.
Yes.
So I guess I wanted to ask you is what gave you the strength to make sure, hey, I'm not going to be one of those fathers that can just peel off, because it's easy to just say, forget it. Like this person isn't trying to work with me. Forget it right now, right? Or what, I'm fine just being a part time, right? And you're like, hey, you know what? I want to make sure I am a constant figure in my child's life, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing, man. Because it doesn't get talked about enough with single fathers. We talk about single mothers all the time, and shout out to them; they're amazing.
Absolutely.
But the single fathers get looked over a lot, in my opinion. And I can see it, man, and the energy and just even our conversations, like it's a beautiful thing. I'm very good at kind of reading people and your energy, man. I love it so much. Yeah. So I just wanted to ask you, I guess, what has been the biggest adjustment with that, being now that your son's a year, and then talk to me about that support system, because obviously, of course, single mothers got the support system too, but from the father's point of view, what has that support system look like for you?
So I forgot where I got this quote from, but I put it up on celebrating my first Father's Day last year. Mm-hmm. And basically, I can't remember it off the top, but basically what it says is a father's mentality and what they do best is protect. They protect their children.
Yes.
And that's what makes it all worthwhile.
Yes.
And unfortunately, without going into too much detail, what kept me driving, what kept me going was my child's safety. And needing to know that he was safe.
Yes.
And what helped propel me was I had a great support system just with family, extended family. I picked out 7 of my closest road dogs. And I nicknamed them the chosen. They're the chosen 7. And some of them come with wives and girlfriends. So by extension, he has extra godmothers. But those chosen 7 are his godfathers. I trust my life with them, and they have shown throughout at least 10 years worth of time, if not longer, that if push came to shove, they have my back. And when I was at my lowest point, nobody turned their back on me. It was always making sure I was in a proper mind frame. Keep going. I know the situation isn't the best right now, but Giannis he's gonna be okay, and you're gonna get him. You're gonna be back together with him soon. So having that, a strong support of women in my circle too. In addition to the chosen 7 and their wives and girlfriends that come with it, and I love them all. I have several ladies who are very very close, and they're his godmothers, and they nobody stopped checking in on me during that time frame, and it was a time frame, but nobody stopped checking in on me, and we all have a good background in faith, so there was a lot of even when I didn't feel like leaving, it was like, okay, what's the middle ground? All right, go to YouTube and let's put a sermon on. It was just constantly keeping my eye on the prize. Again, without going into too much detail, I was blessed with an amazing legal team who took the situation, I would say, obviously not as serious as me because I'm his father, but to the next degree that you could think of, they took it just as serious. And it wasn't about money for them. In some circumstances, um, one of the representatives had a similar situation, just from a different point of view, but was able to both talk with me and my mom and help us through the process. And she's been incredible and amazing. I love her to death for it. So just having a strong support system that was based in faith.
Mm.
Again, it was some trying times, and there were some times where you do want to give up and just say, I'll take the middle ground and I'll rock with it. But also, when you have strong faith, it's gonna take heavy sacrifice. So every time I would get close to, saying, all right, part time, whatever, you get that, you get that voice, and that voice is not in human form.
Yeah.
That voice is very strong in spirit, and every single time I would get close, that voice would always, you could say, but it's communicating these words. That's not what I promised you. And so that was tough too, because it's, keeping faith in God and believing what was being promised and what was being set forth for me, staying on that path. And again, by the grace of God, everything was, got worked out to the point where he was back with me going into Christmas. And, I really didn't need anything else from anybody after that. Obviously the check-ins were nice, but in terms of material, I got something that you cannot trade in. He's too invaluable. There's no amount, unless we're talking like, 10 billion, but, me and him can finesse that. I'd be like, all right, you go run the play here and then sneak out in the back. I'm going to come get you in the morning. But, again, just keeping that faith in God. And then also, too, like you said, just with circumstances not working out with my ex and his mother, the sacrifice of doing what is best for my child, in doing what needs to be done to keep communication open for him and his mother. Now, however that goes, and what I am able to provide versus what's coming on, that's two different stories. I'm not in control of that, but I know as long as I'm able to put my best foot forward to ensure that he does have an opportunity to have a relationship, I give it to God from there, and whatever happens, happens. But the beautiful thing about that is he is loved, he is well taken care of, and again, that smile is just too infectious, where I have yet to, some people they'll be like, okay, it's a baby, it's okay. Every grown, even people that don't necessarily want kids, they're like, oh, I want to play with them. I just want to, can you leave him here? And I'm like, sure. Let me go take a break. Let me go shower right now.
That's dope, man. That's dope. And two, I was thinking too, man. There was a few things I was thinking that as you were sharing. Is one is dope because as men we can get very prideful.
Yes.
We can get very prideful, and so the fact that you was okay getting that help, okay embracing it and saying, I can't do this on myself. You know what? This is a situation I wasn't prepared for, right? And to be able to lean on your mother, to be able to lean on your friends, family, legal team, all that stuff. That's the first highlight. The second highlight is the fact that you was willing to do the work when it comes to the legal stuff. And the reason why I say that is because we know, so I'm sure too, there's so many fathers that we know is like, man, I ain't gonna try and go to the court. I ain't trying to do this. And so you
Right.
being so proactive and jumping ahead of it. When again, the system, I'm not. This is literally proving y'all know this. Where it's not favored for us fathers, right? Is they're
It's
always
not.
going to do
You,
whatever it takes to like they're going to do their best to give it to them give the child to the mother, right? And
my brother, I do not mean to cut you off,
no,
but
no, go ahead, go
you
ahead.
do not have to apologize for that. There's definitely been some things I've learned with the system. Definitely, I guess I don't know if innuendos is the right term, but definitely some undertones
Yes,
into when I come in full force saying my child needs to be here, this, that, and people kind of looking at me like, why aren't you just happy with the weekends? Like
yes,
you get those looks, you get those responses that have those undertones.
yes,
The story I have eventually, when I do, feel the time to, tell that make it publicly within my community, that story in itself, people giving you the side eye because they don't necessarily believe it, because
yes,
you're a man.
yes,
Um, but just having to overcome that and to build upon what I would like to think I was going with where you were going, which is you indulge yourself in the legalities, and when you stay consistent, they start taking you a little bit more seriously. Um, in my case, it was being consistent and being on time. That was what I think started getting people to wake up, being like, okay, this is, if they do see fathers, fighting, it's more so, well, this is for this reason, it's for that reason. And I was very adamant. My story has remained the same since, what occurred. Whereas on the opposite side of the spectrum, there's been multiple changes in stories.
yeah,
So when that starts taking place, you start seeing that investment of, struggling, feeling like you're getting nowhere, hopeless, until, one day, all of a sudden, it's like the pendulum switches. And now you have the leverage, that every time you go into a courtroom, look, I was the one that was consistent.
yeah, yeah, man. And as you said that too, so the third thing too I want to highlight too is something that I've seen and you might have seen or heard before too, which you actually kind of spoke on it in a sense is where people look at you different
Mm-hmm.
as the father, but not even just the outside looking in. Sometimes it's our own family members
Right.
where they're like, well, what did you do wrong for her? Like, again, women do go through different things, but there's a lot of good fathers out there that just want to be there for their child, right?
Absolutely.
And like you said, the story changes. There's always something odd, something different shifting, and it'll be our own family members, our own closest friends, where they start looking at you and they're just like, well, maybe you're the problem. Maybe
Right.
you did, and you're like, no, I'm promise. I'm trying to do everything I can for my child, and it's just not happening, right? And so that's what I want to point out too. So shout out to your support team with that, as far as them really taking you seriously and what you're trying to do, and you being consistent. Because if you wasn't
Mm-hmm.
consistent, then that is where they can maybe start thinking, okay, well, I don't know, man. James might like he's saying this, but it's looking kind of funny in the light. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so
Right.
the fact that you had your support, a strong support system, but then you being consistent, and then even because I know there's fathers out there that have been consistent, and it still doesn't matter.
Right.
They're still going to take because if I'm gonna be real, let's take it there real quick, y'all. Where they'll believe the mother or they'll side with the mother, even if she's not doing what she's supposed to do. Why? Because they're like, I want to make sure I'm in my grandchild's life. I want to
Right.
make sure I'm in my nephew's life. So it's one of those things they're trying to play both sides. So it gets a
Right.
little tricky because they're like, man, okay, I do love you over here, but at the same time, I still want to be part of my little cousin's life, my nephew's not, you know what I mean, my
Yeah.
niece's life. So
Yeah.
it gets tricky, man. That's something that I feel like that doesn't get talked about, but it gets tricky in the trenches. I've seen it.
Yeah. Nah. Again, when I believe my story, it's right to tell that story. Um, at this point, it's like I want to make a call to Netflix because I don't. There's just been so many things a part of this story where my paralegal and I would laugh because it would just be like, well, we always did say what else could not go in our favor or go this way,
Yeah.
and I promise you it would. the day later, boom, it's like, well, she would even say, that's a new one. Write that down. And so, yeah, you hit the nail on right, like just right in the wood, which was outside parties with their own interests, and those interests not being reflective of what they had spoken to you in terms of wanting to know the truth.
Yeah.
You know, I think going ahead into this situation, you know, you always hear the saying, you know, that's my truth.
Yeah.
That's my truth. Well, I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I don't even subscribe to that anymore. It's the truth. We either talking truth or we're talking point of views. I don't even want to give say fallacies because, you know, some people's views are different. But we're either going to tell the truth or we're going to give a point of view and when you're giving a point of view, sometimes you're trying to stray away from the truth. It's just how it goes. So just dealing with that. But again, I was blessed to be in a situation where my support system, nobody ever doubted me. And I believe that's reflective, again, of what I brought up earlier, having those positive male role models to show me what a man with good character is, what discipline is. I happen to be very disciplined in everything else but the kitchen. Like that, there's some things I need to work on, especially with him, my son getting bigger now. It's like, dang, man, here goes an extra 10 pounds. All right, we got to work that off going into the summertime. But, you know, in terms of just the discipline, just to stay focused on the prize, which is, again, my child and my child's well-being. I didn't meet any roadblocks when it came to my support system. And I was very blessed because, again, as you said, stories get mixed, and people who either have been around for a long period of time or they haven't been around for a long period of time. Again, it's that access to your child. But the thing of it is you wouldn't be able to even be put in a position to have access to my child without me, because he's half of me. So why would you try to supersede that? And I just I'm thankful that nobody from my support system saw it and tried to do anything to keep, you know, a backdoor alley open. Yeah, it gets real nasty in the field. You learn a lot through the legal system. I wish it didn't have to, for my situation, and obviously for my son's situation, I wish it didn't have to go down to that. But in doing that, might have found my own passion. You know, going in and out the county building, just learning a thing or two on this floor, learning a thing or two on that floor, going into the courtroom, you know, things being mentioned. Oh, okay, yeah, I can, you know, quote unquote, play off of what they're trying to paint me as, and, you know, this is how you can flip it around, or, you know, stay in line with this, you know, focus logic, don't keep emotions. I think that's one of the biggest things too, is that balance between, going into this, I was I don't want to say overly emotional, but I relied on my emotions more than I did on logic. And emotions change every 10 seconds. But logic's going to be consistent, and it's going to be right there in your face, whether you like it or not. And so having to reprogram my brain for what's in the best interest of my son, and basically saying, is this what's best for him? Yes, we could have a conversation. No, thank you, bye-bye. It's just that simple now. It's not a matter of, well, he can have an opportunity to have this, whereas I didn't have it, and, you know, that leads to a land of chaos. And you know, it's unfortunate the way I had to reprogram my brain, but again, I'm a firm believer in God doesn't make mistakes, and, you know, the path that we think we're supposed to be on is full of highways and tolls, but you're never gonna miss what's designed for you. And I think I've found in this instance what was designed for me. So yeah, again, it's going to be an amazing story when it's time to be told.
I love it, bro.
It's definitely a story of triumph.
I love it, man.
But again, my son he's and something else I learned too is, you know, as a parent, there's that balance with making your child your everything versus knowing that your child still has a place. You still have to make time for yourself. You still have to care for yourself, because you can't pour into your child when you're empty. And I think that was one of the things too, which was again the with my faith, that voice of reassurance saying your son is okay, and I have promised you that he will be back. But right now, I need you to focus on what I need you to focus on. And again, that make you want to tussle with God because it's like, how you gonna give me my blessing, and then take my blessing away? Like, what's going on? Like, we got to square up. But again, man of faith, there was a story like that in the Bible. You know, the testing of the faith.
Job.
And so, yes, yeah. And so again, just having that, and really, somebody had brought it up too. They said, you know, don't necessarily say that your son, obviously your children are everything, but you still have to have time for yourself. You still need to take care of yourself. You were, you know, I was still James, JC, Jay. You know, I was all that before I became a father. Now, fatherhood is my most important. Being a father is my most important title. But that's not who I don't want to lose myself in that. So the way somebody explained it, I saw was, say that your child is your favorite planet in your solar system. And I started when, again, the whole thing is about reprogramming your brain based off what we thought we were supposed to do growing up. And our parents, they do amazing jobs, you know, taking care of us. But I became a father when I was going to be 34. By the time my mom was 34, she was divorced with 3 kids. You know what I mean? So it's it's a whole different different ball game and a whole different world. But she did amazing. You know, flaws and all. She put 3 kids through private high school. All of us are college educated. You know, so again, when I was highlighting earlier, you know, there's some things that you just want to correct that you saw from your parents. There's so much more that I want to, whether it's imitate or follow in line of, that I did see my mom do right. You know, it's just some little things along the way where it's like, okay, that, you know, led to this type thing. And, you know, as we're both maturing, because that's the cool thing too, is when your parents become grandparents, you start looking at them sidelines like, hey, who are you? Where was this easiness to having sugar at 9 p.m. before? I didn't get that. So to see my mom adjust, you know, she went from no grandkids entering 2022, and by the time she left 2023, she had 2 grandsons. Again, with my nephew is 10 months older than my son, and so to see her and her ascension from just mother to now being both mother and grandmother, it's really a beautiful thing. And then in my case, I had a relationship with my great-grandparents all the way through my teenage years. So now to see my grandparents ascend, you know, for the second and third time, with their great-grandsons, because my cousin has my younger cousin, he's graduated 8th grade, well, he's about to graduate 8th grade.
Okay.
And so for them to now have access to 3 great-grandsons, it's a beautiful thing. And coming from, you know, when the relationship ended, I came back home to the family home. So now my son is 4th generation to live in this home. That's amazing in itself. Like my grandfather walks in, he did so much work in this house from the time he purchased it. He just sits in awe sometimes. Like you could never make me believe that I would be able to enjoy this with my great grandson. So yeah, no, it's just I know I'm rambling off in a tangent, but there's just, you know, again, it's just there's so many things about fatherhood that have just opened my eyes in terms of what my greatest blessing and gift from God has meant and how it's impacted my closest loved ones as well.
No, I love it, bro. You actually answered without knowing. You answered what my other question was. Dope. So it worked out, you know what I mean? Because I was going to ask what you learned. What did you learn about yourself in this whole year of fatherhood? So you actually laid it out perfectly, like without knowing. So that's crazy.
I learned. Yeah. So in addition to that, I also learned only I can stop me.
Mm.
Only I can get in my own way.
Mm.
That's both. It's on one hand you're like, dang man. So when when you fall short, it's like, I got in my own way. But on the other hand too, again, when you brought up the sports analogy earlier, that's how my mind works too. My mind works in sports. So you can either sulk after the L, or you can say, you know what, run the film. Let me go back and let me see what I can improve on. So that way, when the opportunity presents itself again, I am prepared. And not only am I prepared, my son sees that I'm prepared, and he knows that he can overcome and tackle any obstacle that's put in his way.
Yeah.
I think that's another great thing about him being close to walking by himself is that he's fully active now, and so the opportunity for him to be in his playpen while he's watching me work out, or taking him out from his playpen and then kind of crawling around him, or little boxing match, or little wrestling match, and for him to just get back up and want more.
Yeah.
That tells me everything I need to know about him. There's another funny story with him. I'm not the tallest person. I'm 5'6".
Mm-hmm.
I ain't mad about being 5'6". His mother is probably 5'2" or 5'3", so our child just physically wasn't going to be the biggest child.
Yeah.
So when he came out, he was on time. But just a couple issues in the living room in terms of he's not breathing when he needs to breathe. So, we're gonna take him to the NICU. Everything else is fine. Just want to reassure. So okay. Well, about an hour later, I go into the NICU to go see check in on him. What's going on? The nurse comes out laughing, and she's like, "You got a feisty one on your hands." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "We put those tubes in his nose, and 5 minutes later, he snatched them out from his nose." And I just look and I go, "That boy gonna be fine." If anything. Yeah. He looked at it from the situation of, nah, y'all don't need a break from me. I need a break from you because I'm here in the world and this is my opportunity and I want to bask in it for a while before y'all come pour love on me. And so I dapped him up real quick. I covered him with affirmations. I said, all right, I'm gonna come get you with your mother in the morning. We gonna be good. And he just kind of looked up, just eyes, and then it was kind of like a little whisper, like, appreciate you, Dad. Now get out of my zone so I can, reflect on what it is that I want to do with my time here. And so he's just been that type of. I can't express how proud I am of my son already, just with being a year old. He's just so resilient, but he's so happy. Yeah. And again, that just it's so infectious that again you could just be having the worst day ever, but as soon as you open up that door and he stops what he's doing and he looks at you. And it's and it's like, let me go put this stuff down real quick. Let me go to the bathroom real quick. I'm like, let's go. I can do the next 4 or 5 hours. We got this.
I like that, bro. What would you give? I know we about to close out, but what would you give? Just advice. If there's one thing you could say to either a soon-to-be father, someone that wants to be a father, or just got into fatherhood, what is just one advice that you would give them that to help them on this fatherhood journey?
Enjoy every moment. Enjoy every single moment as if you're not going to get that moment again. Again, I was put in a position where you can say I took it for granted, and one day those moments stopped for a period of time, and then I got those moments back. And I was still a damn good father leading up to those, not only those moments leading up to not having those moments, but in those moments where I went without, I was still a damn good father. I never stopped being my son's father. Again, I prayed over him every single day I woke up, and every single night I went to sleep, made sure he was covered. I made voice memos. I kept his presence around me. And so I say that to say, enjoy just every little moment from their first little goo ga, enjoy if your child's a shooter, enjoy that. Parents know what I'm talking about with the kids being a shooter. Because my boy's a shooter. Enjoy just the moments of the diaper changings. I've explained that to every father who has a queasy stomach. They're like, man, how do you do it? And I go, there's part of me where I'm like, I don't know if I could do this, but then when you just put it in your brain, I am the the lone defense, so per se, in this moment, in my child being dirty or clean, all that goes out. That you don't even think about it anymore. It's like my child has to be clean. That's it. Let's get it done. Every moment where they're, eating has been hilarious. My child doesn't turn anything down, just like me. So, that includes fruits and vegetables. I'm grateful for that, but it's also a catch-22 because he don't want to share his fruits or vegetables when those days where I don't want to make a plate by myself. I want to nibble off of his. He wants to feed me when he feels it's time to feed me, and sometimes him feeding me is necessary after he feeds the dogs. so I gotta wipe his hands first to make sure it's edible.
Funny, man.
But yeah, just every single moment you recognize and you realize something new about your little human.
Yeah.
In my terms, I call him my favorite action figure. So I learn something new every single day from my little action figure, and it's always something positive. Even the little moments where I'm like, okay, we'll correct that later on.
Yeah.
Even then, it's like there's still an opportunity to learn. Like I said again, with that being the slogan, just get it out of your mind that you got to be perfect. There's no perfect parent, and realistically, the parents that try to be perfect are the ones that unintentionally end up instilling something in their children that needs to be corrected later on down the road.
True.
It's not to say you ease up and don't have expectations for your children, but at the same time, take 2 minutes out where you would kind of step in and discipline and say, hey, don't do that, and just observe what it is that they're trying to do, because more times than not, they're trying to imitate you. That's true. That gives you a whole new perspective of how they see the world, and it's a reflection on what you're doing to present the world to them. So there was a time last weekend. He was, I know we got to wrap up, but last weekend he was coming in, and I couldn't figure out why he was grabbing certain things. But instead of saying, hey, don't touch that, I wanted to see what the method to his madness was. I kid you not, bro. Again, he just turned a year old. He started lining his cars up on the placement in the same color scheme that I line my headphones up in.
Wow.
I have like 4 different headphones. Some are earbuds and some are over the ear, and he was lining them up in the same color scheme as I lined my headphones up. And I just sat there, and I had to walk away because that's the type of stuff that men cry. Fathers, I think that's another thing too. Cry. It's okay to cry. They will bring that emotion out of you, and it's so amazing when they do it, because it's, again, we as fathers, we're not necessarily given the full green light to express ourselves. It's always, take whatever's coming to you on the shoulder and suck it up and move forward. But when you cry, for me, I don't know if it's the same with you, but when I cry, it's healing the inner child in me at times. Yes. Because I get to experience something that I longed for as a child that I didn't get. And so now to observe it from fatherhood, the things that hardened my heart are now softening my heart. So much so that, again, I believe that everything happens for a reason. With everything that occurred, I started mending the relationship with my own father.
That's dope.
And my father wants to be present in his grandchild's life. He's in a different state, so we're still working out the logistics in that. But the door has been, door's been open. We're open to other types of forms of healing, and I take every single day with some good, some bad, and for the most part, he's been consistent. And so to see that, again, I have a caption I always put at every single caption. I know we'll wrap up, but every time I paint a picture with Giannis, I always end it with fatherhood is dope. That's the best way I could describe it. Fatherhood is just so dope. I can't imagine my life moving forward without my son. And I think that's one of the greatest things about that is, again, God delivered on a promise, and his well-being, he's with me, and
that's beautiful, man.
I look forward to every single day, again.
I love it, bro. I love it, man. So, real quick, too, let the people know where, because people don't know, man. He has a pretty big podcast himself. He got a lot of different things going on. So, just plug it in, man, where they can find you, where they can. I know y'all got y'all stuff on Twitter, too, and all that. So, let
Yeah,
them know, man.
yeah. So I do hip hop based podcast with my boys Busby and Martine called the Illogical Sense Podcast. We've been going since 2016. Yes, you can follow us everywhere that you get podcasts that isn't visual. But I guess going on with whatever's going on with Google and them acquiring YouTube, whatever Google podcast was, it's now becoming YouTube podcasts. So
Oh,
you can still catch us on YouTube. We just don't do the visuals.
okay.
But yeah, you catch us there. The Twitter handle is T Illogical SP. The Instagram handle is The Illogical Sense. And then on all my social media, you can find me, at JC No Hundreds. It's a play on YG's, YG 400. So yeah, you can find me on all those platforms. We've been very consistent. We're over 300 episodes, but again, I'm blessed with them being amazing friends, and them recognizing the blessing and the challenges of being a single father. We're basically at an episode or 2 episodes a month now, until I can kind of get more reign on it. But wherever you can catch it, the past Kendrick Lamar and Drake back and forth, we was on that. So if you were in tune with that and you didn't hear us, you go back and play that. But yeah, we've been doing the podcast. I got some things that I want to work towards in the future. That as time goes on, I'll reveal that. But again, at JC No Hundreds on both Instagram and Twitter. Yeah.
I love it, bro.
I appreciate you so much for this too. Again, I've been waiting to get on here, so that way we can have this nice talk. I just want to say, Sean is a great person, who's always making himself available, and I don't take that for granted. So I really appreciate you. This is an amazing platform that I've been spreading nonstop since I found out that you were doing this, and I think one of the last episodes that I was able to hear without being interrupted, with Fatherly Time, was the episode where you were talking about just noticing some things in your upbringing with parenthood, and the things that you wanted to correct moving forward. That spoke to me a lot, and I took that in. It was a quick 30 minutes, but boy, those 30 minutes, it was like, man, let me go back. You got a tithe and plate? Let me go put some money in the pocket real quick. So I definitely appreciate you. I put several fathers onto this podcast, and now they have no excuse but to tune into the next episode.
Facts, man. No, I appreciate it, man. I definitely don't take it for granted. I appreciate your time as well. And for those two that wasn't able to maybe to catch everything, I'm gonna make sure when I post it on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all that, I'm gonna make sure I put his information as well. So if you guys aren't sure, make sure you can click there. Or even if you guys not sure, you can message me. I'll make sure I plug it in for you guys, man. But yeah, this has been a blast, man. I love it, and I'm just thankful for your time. I'm thankful for what you're doing. I'm excited to see what's coming, the different things you got, man. And remember, guys, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you tell a friend. If you know some sponsored people, throw them my way. But
and then one more side note too. Again, any soon to be fathers, any fathers. You just want to communicate, you want to talk, my DMs are always open. I love talking fatherhood with men who have been in the trenches or are about to go into the trenches. I absolutely love that. So again, my social media is up. Sean will put that up there for you. Feel free to DM, just make sure you put don't just start asking questions, say, hey, I heard the episode, I appreciate it, what you got. Man, I could talk with people all day about that stuff. That's fun. So I wanted to just put that last tidbit in there for you.
No, go ahead, man. That's a beautiful thing, man. I love it, bro. And like always, like y'all know this by now, right? Remember, you don't have to be perfect, but you always have to be present. See you guys on the next one.